So let me give you a quick picture into my brain. There's this camera I want to buy, but I really do not know if I should, if I will, if I want. I know I want it. So as you might know, I'm like doing a constant low buy, more so meaning that I'm just a minimalist living person. I do not want to buy things that are not necessary or that I do not get a lot of value from. So I don't want to just impulse buy things or waste money on things that I don't need. And now there's these two categories of stuff where I always kind of am looking for the perfect thing I want to buy. And that's backpacks or like bags and cameras. I'm happy with the camera that I have, but then also I kind of want a smaller and lighter setup. No, it doesn't matter actually, but I have this camera that I want to buy. And this is where I'm at. First, like the really important questions. Can I afford it? Like, would it be a financially really bad decision if I bought it? No. Do I need it? Also, no. Do I really want that other camera? Yes. But why? Because it would be smaller. And that would make it possible for me to like carry it around kind of like a phone, but a phone camera will never be as good as a real camera. And so I would love to have this real good camera that's really small that I can carry around all the time. Does any delusional fantasy self play a role? Yes. Because when do I need a small camera? In my everyday life, when I'm not taking a bag. But then also when I'm going like traveling and when I want to take like a really, really small amount of things, then it would be great as well. But the thing about this camera is it cannot really take video clips well. And so it would only be a photography camera. That means as soon as I also want to take this camera to shoot a YouTube video, I have to take this camera and then it's just one more thing. So buying this camera wouldn't make me declutter this camera. It would just mean I have two cameras. And usually I just like to have this one thing. If it does everything, like there's nothing it can do better than this camera, except for being smaller. And now this camera is not cheap. Well, it is a good camera and it's not super expensive, but it costs a substantial amount of money. And for that money, I'm thinking to myself, like, there's so many things I could buy for that money. And I don't buy these because I think like, well, it's a lot of money and I don't need it. And also if I think about like, how long do I have to work for this amount of money? If I'm thinking about my like content creation job, YouTube and stuff, then it's honestly like 2 months because I don't earn much money right now with this. But then on the other hand, when I think about like spending the same amount of money on travel, I would always do it. And I want this camera to capture moments. I want this camera to kind of honor my New Year's resolution I had to take more pictures, like just for myself without a reason. And it would just be so helpful to have this camera and always have it with me. But then on the other hand, there's just no guarantee. I think that's another thing that I don't like, that I do not know if I'm actually going to take this camera everywhere, if I'm actually going to enjoy taking pictures on this camera as much as I think. If like how much of it is just the newness and that I want to have this thing, I want this package to arrive at my door and I want to try it out. I think I'm just gonna leave it here and I'm gonna check in at another time when I made a decision or when I have different thoughts. And maybe I want to buy it and maybe not, because the decision is not made yet. And so you can just have this insight into my brain and kind of see how it works and how I am making sure I'm buying intentionally, but also how I'm battling myself when it comes to deciding on a purchase, especially if it's like that expensive and if I already have something that can do exactly the thing I want it to do. But then because it's so much smaller, maybe I could actually just take it with me every single day wherever I go. And maybe that would be amazing. And maybe I could take so many pictures that I can't take now because I don't have the camera with me. And that would be so much fun and that would be okay. And I have the money to spend it. And I'm allowed to do that and I want to do it. And you never know what the future is going to bring. But then I'm also just not sure if it's a good idea. Okay, it's 2 days later and maybe I've just found like a good way to make this decision. What I'm speaking about is cost per use. Because it's a camera, I don't think I should like count the cost per use, like the cost per touching it, taking it with me, trips I go on, but maybe the cost per picture. And then when I think about that, like I'm thinking, how much is it worth? Like when am I happy? How much is a picture allowed to cost for me to still be happy with how much it cost? And I think that's like 10 cents. But with the price of the camera, that means I do need to take between 8,000 and 9,000 pictures for the purchase to be like justified. That would maybe take me 2 years. But interestingly enough, that kind of just, it makes me feel good thinking about it that way, because it really does represent my feeling. It puts that into numbers, because that is what I'm struggling with. I do not know how I would use this camera over the next 2 years or more. And only if I kind of can guarantee myself that I'm going to use it a lot over the next 2 years, I think it would be worth it, like to spend the money. But what's also true is that with this camera, I could maybe take pictures that I don't take right now because I don't have the camera on me, because there were like 10 situations since I thought of this camera, like to buy it, where I would have taken a picture with it, but couldn't take a picture with my phone because it was just nighttime or something, like a situation where my phone camera just doesn't perform well enough. Maybe it sounds like I'm obsessing too much about this purchase. I thought about that, and that kind of makes me not want to share all of this. But then on the other hand, I thought like, I think it's not a bad idea to obsess about a purchase, because we're way too used to not think about it and just buy it, because in our consumerist society, capitalism wants it that way. Like, it's great if you just don't think and just buy. But I think from a sustainability standpoint and from a consumerism standpoint and minimalism standpoint, it just actually makes sense to think a lot about the things we buy. From a money standpoint, especially if it's expensive, I also think it just makes more sense to actually think about it. Maybe another thing that you need to know is that it's secondhand, so I do feel better about that because I'm not buying it new. But that also kind of makes this like lottery. Is it lottery in English? Like, because there's a camera now available that's kind of discounted a bit more than other cameras, I'm afraid if I don't make the decision soon, that will be gone and then it will be more expensive. And so it kind of puts me under pressure to buy now, which is one of the worst things to make like a good purchasing decision. So I told myself that I do want to wait a bit longer. We'll see how my feelings and reasons change over the next few days, and then at some point make a decision. So it's another day and I have more thoughts. On one hand, right now I don't really feel the urge to buy this camera that much, and I think there is one reason for that, and that is that I did spend the weekend with like a lot of friends and I just had a lot of fun, and that just kind of took my mind off this whole topic, which brings me to dopamine. And I think that sometimes, because like the anticipation of buying something releases a lot of dopamine, we're more focused on this whole thing than it's actually worth. So getting dopamine from other sources, like spending time with my friends and doing other things and seeing new things, kind of lowers the want of buying something new. But then there's actually another thing. I did spend time with friends, as I said, this weekend, and one of these friends actually used to have the exact camera that I want. And so I talked with him and I kind of shared why I want this camera, and he shared why he had this camera, and he actually sold it, but he's really regretting it and he wants to buy it again. And this whole talk actually made me more sure of wanting to buy this camera, because I have a friend that I trust and he used this camera and he said it's great and he loves it. And so the takeaway is from like the past few days that waiting does really make sense, because sometimes it's just dopamine, it's just a thing that's in your head right now, and then having other sources of dopamine, doing other things kind of makes this whole want go away. But then on the other hand, also really thinking about it and talking to people about it makes it maybe easier to make a decision. The story continues. So yesterday I was like, nah, I'm fine, I'm gonna buy this camera at some point. Let's look at the website, what's available right now. And nothing was available. The fact that I couldn't buy the camera right now if I wanted really made me feel bad. Really like, I need to search for it. I need to figure out a way where I could buy it right now for a good price. And it was not possible. And I searched all these websites, and it might have to do with a new model of that camera being available. It's just a slight change, but maybe that caused a bit more people to be interested in that camera, and so it wasn't available anymore secondhand yesterday. Then yesterday evening there was actually one available again. But it was just interesting to see that the fact that I couldn't buy it anymore, even though I didn't want to buy it yesterday, really sent me spiraling down a hole of like, oh my god, but that's not good. I at least want to have the option. That's kind of how sales work, right? Feeling like you maybe are out of the option, and so you need to really buy it right now. Yeah, I think I'm just still waiting for a good deal. But I don't know if the deals are gonna be worse from now on, because there's more people thinking about this camera now. There are news regarding the camera, because I think it was yesterday or the day before, I saw that someone is selling it in my city, like privately secondhand, for the price that I originally saw the camera on the like online camera selling website. And so I wrote him and asked him to come pick it up, and that's what I'm gonna do now. I'm really excited, and let's go. So I'm actually about to record another video, but I wanted to show you my camera, my new amazing camera. Now it's getting dark. Wow. Okay. So I picked it up, and there was some stuff with this camera. This usually doesn't come with the camera, but it's very handy if you put it in a pocket and you don't really want to mess up this part. This is the camera I wanted. It's so small, and it kind of makes me feel like 10 years ago when I had these small cameras still. No, actually more so 15 years ago. This kind of concludes the story of should I buy it or not, because I bought it. Now there's one more thing I want to add. I think one thing that would have helped me, that I can highly recommend to you, especially if you want to buy something secondhand and kind of have changing availability and prices, is really from the start sit down, or at least when you make a decision that you're most likely going to buy it, and decide on the price you want to buy it for. I think if I would have waited longer, I could have gotten a better deal. So I think it really makes sense to kind of sit down and say, like, in a really used condition, I'm okay to pay this much. In a brand new condition, I'm okay to pay this much. If for the next 3 months nothing opens up, I'm okay to buy it new. Something like that. Like, but kind of decide it before you're actually in the situation of like, one camera is available, I want to buy it now, or I need to buy it now because otherwise it's not available anymore. And now, as a seasoned minimalist and used to not buying much, all the feelings of like, oh my god, this is so exciting, are gone. I have this camera now, I've been using it. I'm gonna show you some pictures here, but it's just a camera I have now. And this really, really makes it apparent that stuff does not make us happy, but that's okay. Because that's never what I wanted. I wanted to have this camera to be able to take it around with me, and to maybe be able to take a few pictures that otherwise I would not have been able to take. I'm just gonna try to get these 8,500 pictures at least to actually feel like this purchase was worth it. I do hope it was interesting to just see kind of how I go through the feelings and thoughts of making a purchasing decision in the most responsible way possible, trying to make sure that I'm actually going to use the thing that I want to buy. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you're similar, what kind of goes on in your mind when you think about buying, and just all your thoughts you have about this topic down below in the comments. And now I do want to link you another video that you can check out. Plus, I want to say thank you so much to all of my Patreon subscribers, to my patrons, for just being amazing and making this job better for me. And also, if you've watched until now, you are helping me out a lot too. So see you there or in my next video. Goodbye.